What if I told you that the largest pyramid on the continent isn't in Mexico? That the most sophisticated ancient city in North America, a metropolis bigger than London was at the time, is hidden in plain sight in Illinois? And what if I told you that it vanished? You are watching Global History Tales. We dig deeper, past the textbooks, to unearth the stories you were never meant to know. Subscribe and join the search for forgotten history. When we think of ancient America, we picture small nomadic tribes roaming an empty wilderness. But history is wrong. 1,000 years ago, along the banks of the Mississippi River, a civilization of tens of thousands built a sprawling city. They sculpted the earth itself, creating over 100 massive pyramids. They built a metropolis that was the epicenter of trade, religion, and power for an entire continent. They called it Cahokia. And then, at the peak of its power, its people walked away, leaving a ghost city behind. This is the story of America's forgotten ancient superpower and the unsolved mystery of its sudden, terrifying collapse. We are in the year 1100 AD, long before Columbus, long before the first European cities. Here, near modern-day St. Louis, the Mississippian culture has reached its zenith. This isn't a simple village. This is a 6-square-mile city, a complex, organized society with a rigid class structure. It is a hub of trade routes that stretch from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico. Thousands of canoes travel the rivers, bringing exotic goods. Copper from Michigan, shimmering shells from Florida, shark teeth from the ocean. At its center, a population of over 20,000 people live, work, and worship. Archaeologists have found evidence of grand plazas, bustling markets, and specialized craftsmen. This was the first true city in North America, and it was dominated by gods, by kings, and by the giant structures they built to prove their power. The heart of Cahokia is a monument of pure human will. We call it Monks Mound. It is the largest prehistoric earthwork in the Americas, standing over 100 feet tall, with a base larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. It was built by hand. Millions of cubic feet of earth, carried in woven baskets, one by one, over a period of 250 years. This was not just a building. It was a declaration of power. And at its peak lived the city's ruler, a man seen as a living god, the great sun. From his massive 1,000-square-foot palace on the summit, he would have looked down on his entire city, his shadow stretching over the grand plaza below. He was the brother of the sun, the voice of the cosmos, and his power was absolute. But the power of the great sun didn't just come from his height. It came from knowledge. Just west of the Great Mound, archaeologists discovered a massive circle of large red cedar posts. They call it Woodhenge. This was not a defensive wall. It was a sophisticated astronomical observatory, a celestial calendar. The astronomer priest, a figure of immense importance, would stand at its center. From here, he could track the stars, predict the changing of the seasons, and pinpoint the exact days of the solstices and equinoxes. This knowledge was power. It told the people when to plant their corn, when to harvest, and when to hold their most sacred ceremonies. It proved that the rulers of Cahokia were not just masters of the earth, but masters of the heavens as well. While the priests and rulers lived in grandeur, what was life like for the thousands who built their world? The commoner of Cahokia was a farmer. The city's survival depended on one single critical crop: maize or corn. The fertile soil of the Mississippi floodplain, known as the American Bottom, allowed for a massive surplus of food, which funded the entire civilization. When not farming, they were laborers, quarrying stone, felling trees, and hauling the endless baskets of earth to build the mounds. But life was not just work. In the Grand Plaza, a game of immense cultural importance was played. Chunky, a disc-shaped stone, was rolled, and spears were thrown to see who could land closest. It was more than a sport. It was a political event, a way to settle disputes and bind the city together. But just as Cahokia reached its peak, something changed. A shadow of fear fell over the metropolis. Around 1175 AD, the rulers ordered the construction of a massive defensive wall, a palisade. This was no simple fence. It was a 2-mile-long, 15-foot-high wall of 20,000 oak and hickory logs, complete with guard towers. It cut the city in two, separating the central ceremonial precinct, the mounds and the elite, from the rest of the population. Why build such a wall? Who were they afraid of? Was it an external enemy, jealous of Cahokia's wealth? Or was the threat coming from inside? Was this a wall to keep enemies out, or to keep the common people controlled? The golden age was over. The great city was beginning to tear itself apart. The wall was a sign of the end. By 1350 AD, Cahokia was empty. The city of 20,000 people, the largest city on the continent, was abandoned. The plazas fell silent. The fields grew wild. The great earthen pyramids were left to the wind and the rain. But the great mystery is this: there is no archaeological evidence of a final, catastrophic battle. No city-wide fire. No mass graves from a conquering army. It appears the people simply left. They packed up what they could carry and melted back into the forests and river valleys, leaving their grand metropolis to decay. The question that has haunted archaeologists for centuries is not if they left, but why. What could cause an entire civilization to abandon its home? The first clue to the collapse lies in the earth itself. The modern archaeologist provides a devastating theory. Cahokia died of success. To feed 20,000 people and to build the massive palisade wall, they stripped the land bare. They clear-cut the forests for miles, destroying the habitats of the animals they hunted. Without trees, the soil eroded. When the Mississippi River flooded, as it often did, the floods were catastrophic, wiping out their precious fields of corn. They had pushed their environment to the breaking point. The river that had given them life now threatened to take it all away. They were, perhaps, the first environmental refugees in North America, victims of an ecological disaster of their own making. But the environment may only be half the story. Other theories point to a social and political breakdown. Imagine the commoner watching his family starve as the crops fail, while the great son and the elite remain safe behind their wall, demanding more tribute, more labor. The social contract was broken. Evidence suggests increasing violence, malnutrition, and disease. Perhaps the people simply lost faith in the rulers who claimed to control the heavens, but could no longer provide food on earth. It was not one single thing. It was a perfect storm. Climate change, environmental collapse, and the political system that buckled under the pressure. The people didn't wait for the end. They simply walked away, choosing survival over the city. Today, the mounds of Cahokia are silent. Covered in grass, they are easily mistaken for natural hills, their ancient power almost forgotten. But they are a testament to a lost world, a reminder that civilizations, no matter how powerful, are fragile. The story of Cahokia is a warning, an echo from America's own ancient past. It teaches us that no society is permanent and that the choices we make about our resources, our leaders, and each other have consequences that can last for 1,000 years. The people vanished, but the mystery remains, buried in the dark, silent earth of the American heartland. What do you think was the real reason America's greatest ancient city was abandoned? Environmental collapse or a revolution from within?